and welcome to Computer Tech and More. Today I want to talk about my Intel NUC and comparing it against other mobile GPUs and processors and talking about what this kind of product is good for. So go ahead and jump around. I'll try to separate them by markers. So first is 3D Mark 11 graphics, and I have listed up here the Intel NUC, which is the 8259U with a UHD Iris 655, then my Lenovo Yoga laptop, which has a 1065G7, the previous box that I used for TV, or no, this is my previous laptop, which is an i7-5410U with an 840M, so that's a dedicated mobile graphics card. Then my previous media center box, which had an i5-3210M with a HD Graphics 4000. My Zephyrus G15 laptop using only the integrated GPU, so that's a Vega 8. So keeping an eye on the GPU score will compare against pretty much all AMD mobile CPUs with integrated GPU. So this would be good for like a 5800U, 5700U, and so on and so forth. So that Vega 8 will be the kind of the most important part with the graphics scores. And then some older desktops that I have. If it's missing data, it means that the GPU is too old. I no longer had it to run more modern tests or is incapable of running a modern test. So 3D Mark 11 is one of my oldest tests, so I have the most data on it. So as a note, the Intel NUC is Thunderbolt 3, so that's like a PCI Express 3.0 Gen 4, so you can do an eGPU. I wouldn't recommend going over 1070. I think there would be too much bottlenecking because of the interface speed, but you would get around 80% to the external display of that 1070. So you get very potent performance, and the 4-core in the NUC would provide adequate throughput, adequate CPU performance for that. And you may actually see a bit of a CPU boost in performance versus trying to run the integrated graphics and the CPU all in the same package because of thermal limitations. But there we go. Then we go to 3D Mark Physics. One note here, the Ryzen scored a little bit low. And I think that's because, again, running off of the integrated graphics and the CPU all on the same test caused more thermal inside of it, so it just couldn't be properly, it was just getting too hot, so it was throttling itself. But you get a good idea of the performance listed of that CPU. So the Intel NUC is good for running your TV, basic gaming, basic computing type tasks. It is a speedy 4-core. There are models that have a 6-core, but most of the current lineup are 4 cores with Xe graphics. So I personally have found that the Iris G7 compares pretty well to the Intel Xe, which one is it? The 64 compute unit 1, as opposed to the 96, is it? I have another graph. I'm trying to remember offhand. But one of the key points that I wanted with the Iris 665 was to outperform my old 840M. And do note that you may have mixed results in gaming with Intel's integrated graphics. Not all games, like the user-made as opposed to professionally made game Black Mesa doesn't work very well with Intel integrated graphics. It's just missing assets, so things will show up black. So your mileage may vary, but it depends on what games you play. Here we are to Firestrike graphics. So the Vega 8 really is a good performer. They score very similarly. And it gets a similar score to a 285 GTX. And then we got the physics. Again, the Zypher scored a bit low because I think of that thermal limitation, because the CPU really should be outperforming the 6700K. And these two are dual cores. So, and this one down here is an old Core 2 Duo. So this should be the lowest scoring. Anyways. Okay, then we go to Fire Strike Combined. So I play mostly like Lego games on my NUC, like Lego Star Wars, Lego Indiana Jones, Lego Batman, and the old HD 4000 was also capable of that. So this really got me much more future-proof in a way. And I thought about how I could hook up an eGPU, external GPU to it. And it's 4K capable. I'll go over the ports in a little bit when we're dismantling the device. So this is the times by score. Times by CPU. Night Raid. This is a less intensive 3D mark or test. And Night Raid CPU. So next, let's go to how they all compare. So right here is, I didn't create this. Well, I copied it off their website, but this is from Notebook GPU Check. And it's just one of the websites I use to gather data on various products. All right, we're getting it sized. There we go. So right here is my NUC, 655. This is the G7 from my Lenovo laptop. And this compares very well against the 64 EU Iris Xe graphics. And then we've got two versions of the Vega 8, and then the predicted whatever scoring is available on the new RDNA 2 integrated graphics from AMD. There are currently no products listed, and then I couldn't find the 840M, so I have the 940M, which should score similarly. So keeping that in mind, so we got Ice Storm, GPU, their scores, CloudGate scores 3D Mark 11 right here. Firestrike and Time Spy. Leave it up for a couple more seconds, but it gives you a good idea of how these GPUs score. And personally, I found that the G7 has around the same performance as an old 8800 GTX from 2006. I could play like Fallout 3 fully maxed out. So it's great for older games. So it really opens up a good Steam library. I wouldn't go any lower than this for if you plan on gaming. And the Iris 655 in gaming scores very similarly to the G7. All right, moving on to CPU. So this is a handbrake test, and it's right there. It uses a basic preset and the wattage, and then how it compares against other CPUs. Sorry, something looked a little off on my test. That's why I'm jumping over to a different tab with same data. There we are. So this is one we care about. Wattage is 3362 versus 2485, and then the FPS. Sorry if I scroll through this quickly. And then this is FPS per core per clock. So it divides the FPS by the number of cores and then divide that by the clock speed. So it tells you how much performance you get out of each clock cycle, basically on each core. So higher is better. And this is performance watt. So this is your energy efficiency. All right, let's go to 3D Mark CPU test. So right here is the one we care about, the 8259U. So it gets a lot of the performance that you see in the old 6700K. All right. Oops, that's the wrong one. Anyways, so my data is a little messed up here. This one should be for you can see all my data behind it. Yeah, that should be for the 310M. So my graphs are a little messed up. I'll zoom in there instead of showing graphs, unfortunately. There we go. So right there's the 310M from my old media center box, and it was a dual core and should not be used for encoding, but it gave the relative performance and the performance per watt. Okay, so let's move on to disassembling. Do excuse the towel, we had a toddler spill orange juice on the floor. I'm going to take out my handy dandy iFixit kit. I am not sponsored by any of these guys. It's just a kit that I like to use. To access it, you unscrew these 4 screws. I do apologize for the blurriness. I am blocking out the serial number on the bottom of my box. Do it in real time. There we go. And I have a hard drive plugged in, so you can see it in there. And let's see, wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. I have not taken this apart in a while. There we go. All right, do be gentle because there's a plug right there and you don't want to yank it out. I don't want to fully disassemble it, and I'm not going to take the motherboard out. So right here's my SSD, and over here's the memory. It's standard laptop style. You pull these 2 tabs out and it'll flip up and allows you to pull it out, and then you just push it down, locks it into place. Don't forget to plug your SATA cable back in, and you close it up. And there we go. There we go. Okay. So I'm not going to screw it in. I'll do that after. So it's got HDMI, your standard Ethernet, and then 2 10 gig ports. This is the back, and then it's got Thunderbolt. That is also USB-C for any kind of regular USB type peripheral. Fan filter, and if you want to get extra performance, you can hook up a USB powered fan to the side of it, and it allows it to run overclocked more efficiently or higher. It's got 2 more 10 gig on the front, both of them USB-A, got their headphone, and I believe that this has an IR sensor over here for your like TV remotes and stuff, and then got an SD card. I know that this top panel can come off. I've never actually taken it off myself. I've seen plenty of pictures online. I'm not going to take it off, I guess. But based on pictures I've seen online, you don't actually get access to the fan to clean it out. So I've never actually cleaned the fan on this, but I've had no thermal problems, so I don't see the need to. I've blasted air into the side, and whatever, that seems to do the trick. Or just wipe it. And there we go, that's the Intel NUC. So this is a good little box for if you need basic computing for your basic tasks. You just want a computer to hook up to your TV or anything like that. That's how I use it, to hook up to my TV, so mostly just does YouTube or playing my on NAS movie collection. I can also hook up one of my external DVD Blu-ray drives to it and play in that way. It's not very loud. It's got a nice large vent in the back. Even at full bore, I wouldn't call it loud. So it's a very good little basic type gaming PC. You should be able to play like what was I think Fallout 3 pretty much maxed out. Fallout New Vegas pretty high detail. This is all at 1080p. So it's great for probably pre-2007 era games. And there we go. That's my review of the Intel NUC. And oh, some basic recommendations. I would hold off buying a new one unless you are in dire need of it until AMD releases the RDNA 2 class Ryzen chips, because then you could get an 8-core with RDNA 2 graphics in a NUC little PC. And I just remembered I was going to go to websites. So this is Minis Forum. They make a bunch of little mini PCs. That's Mini, M-I-N-I-S F-O-R-U-M. They've been featured on other tech tubers. So like this one features the 5900HX. It still has Vega graphics, so the graphics performance is very similar to my laptop that I used in this video. And it gets you a very powerful CPU. And then they have other ones that feature Intel and AMD U-class CPU. So this has a 48U with Radeon graphics. So personally, I would wait till the RDNA 2 APUs come out, but that's just me. And Asus also makes one, and then you can get them pre-made for you from Simply NUC. Right there, Simply NUC. And this is on back order right now, but it features their high end is the 4800U with Vega 8 graphics. And they also make Intel versions with Xe graphics. So if you're in need of something like this or you want it, I personally would get either this i5 1135G7 Xe or the i7 1165G7. That's me, because I want the extra graphics in there. I wouldn't go to the G4 or anything like that. and they have a whole bunch of different versions on this website. You can go through it yourself, or you can get literally like a desktop replacement. As for if you're in dire need, want to get one right now, I would get the 4800U with Vega 8 graphics, because again, I like the 8 cores. I think the CPU will get you more longevity, but if you go AMD right now, you're not going to get Thunderbolt, so there's no eGPU. That's the primary reason for going Intel with their NUC as opposed to going AMD. But if you don't plan on hooking up an eGPU and you're just going to use the integrated graphics, I would go AMD. But that's my overview of these mini PCs and CPU, GPU performance that you get out of it. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.